Hello, BookTube. I'm a morning's dog walk. If you want to call it a walk, we doddered and stumbled and waddled all the way to the corner and back. Wasn't very long. But on that dog walk, it occurred to me there's a way that I can assuage the misery of a mail-free Sunday in addition to a book tag. It hadn't occurred to me. I can talk about my Saturday because, remarkably, my Saturday yesterday did not involve me sitting on this couch reading all day. The mountain actually went to Mohammed. I actually left Boston for the first time in I don't know how long. Settled the girls and left, and took the train and went out to visit Chris and Giselle from the Roads blog. And it was a beautiful day. There were hawks in the sky. It was just a peaceful, quiet, laid back Saturday afternoon in the country, far away from Boston. And they took me to Savers, which is a big, well-ordered warehouse of secondhand goods of all kinds. They have a very generous book selection, but also lots of furniture. You could fill an apartment easily and cheaply in one of these places. But we were there for the books. So I thought that I could do a Savers book haul. I got 7 books. We went to 2 Savers. And I got 3 paperbacks and 4 hardcovers for a song, for nothing. Not quite as cheap as my beloved Brattle Bookshop, but pretty good. And the 3 paperbacks were all Penguin classics. And not just Penguin classics, but actual classics of Greece and Rome, which is... the first one is... The Rise of the Roman Empire by Polybius, not his title, of course. This is the Greek historian who wrote a book about the Punic Wars, the great Mediterranean wars that Rome fought with Carthage. And this is the 1979 Ian Scott Kilvert translation that I have in a ratty little mass market. Now I have it in this lovely, never touched, brand new trade paperback where Polybius says, he outlines what he's going to do with his work forever. It takes him forever to do. And then he says, this then is the general plan of my work. Its fulfillment must depend on whether fortune grants me a sufficiently long lifespan. But even if the common human destiny should overtake me, I am convinced that my subject will not languish for want of men who are quite capable of continuing it. There are many who will pledge themselves to carry on the task to its appointed conclusion. Which is a perfect illustration, if you didn't already know it, that Ian Scott Kilvert is English and grew up in the Edwardian era. Polybius doesn't sound like that in the original, but still, it's wonderful to have this. Next one is all of the Socratic writings of Xenophon. The Socratic dialogues and memories and historical novels of Socrates that Plato wrote are, of course, the most famous ones, but Xenophon wrote 2. He wrote about Socrates as well, and this volume contains them all. It's very nice to find. I don't even think I have the equivalent of this in a mass market. I think I have many different volumes. Last one, probably I jumped too quick at it. It's the Enneads of Platinus, and it's an abridgment. The Enneads are actually quite a bit longer than that. Neoplatonism. Soul-deadening stuff, but I wanted to have it, and I don't know that I would have grabbed it if I had realized at the moment that it was an abridgment, because I tend not to like abridgments, especially if an unabridged version in English exists. But we'll see. And then there are the hardcovers. The first one being the Bolin Inheritance by Philippa Gregory in this UK hardcover. This lovely UK hardcover. What I wouldn't give to find one of these for the other Bolin girl. I only have just an ordinary paperback. But this is the 1530s. This is Henry VIII at the end of his life. He's sick. He's thrashing in all directions. He's going through wives at a record clip. And the book centers a large amount of its action, larger than I would have credited. I remember when it first came out, I thought, what a gamble that is, on Henry's least charismatic and most enigmatic wife, Anne of Cleves, who was advocated by Thomas Cromwell to come over and marry Henry, come over from Germany and marry Henry. He was sold on her by a Hans Holbein painting, and then saw her in the flesh and was immediately turned off on the whole prospect. How Holbein survived that particular thing, I have no idea. Henry could easily have ordered him executed, as he in fact did order Cromwell executed, for very little reason beyond the fact that he didn't find Cromwell's choice of wife sexually attractive. I mean, there were other factors involved, but had it not been for Anne of Cleves, Cromwell would have died in his bed. But anyway, this mostly centers on her, also Catherine Howard, and a little bit of Anne Boleyn. I wanted to read you the moment when Anne of Cleves gets the news. Cromwell says, "Has he explained his dislike of you?" And she answers, "Explained?" And Cromwell makes a little noise of irritation at my stupidity and glances around as if he would summon one of my countrymen to translate. Then he checks himself as he remembers that this must be a complete secret. "What is wrong with you?" he says very simply and very quietly, his mouth to my ear. I realize that my face is stunned, and I quickly turn to the window before the court can see my shock and distress. "Is it me?" I demand. "He says it is me?" His dark little eyes are anguished. He cannot answer me for shame, and that is how I know. It is not that the king is old or tired or sick. It is that he does not like me, that he does not desire me, perhaps even that I disgust him. And I guess from Thomas Cromwell's scrunched up, worried little face that the king has already discussed his repulsion with this nasty little man. The whole book is told in that propulsive present tense, and it's just delightful. I look forward to reading the whole thing over again, and I will use the acquisition of a new hardcover as a flimsy excuse. Next one, problematic book. This is David Irving's biography of Hermann Göring, the Reichsmarshal of the Third Reich under Adolf Hitler. Grotesque and awful, just pure, fuming evil of a human being. This book is under contract with William Morrow. It was brought out as a big, beautiful hardcover. It was stacked in Crocs and Brentanos and Barnes & Noble all over the country, all over England. A major publisher, a major mainstream work, and the very last one that Irving did. This is the book, the last sight of him on the stage of legitimate history. Because right around the time when this was coming out, he was signing on to pretty much full-blown Holocaust denial. He wasn't saying that huge numbers of Jews and communists and gypsies and homosexuals were not rounded up in camps. But he did start to say they weren't killed there. And it ruined his reputation. And it's a problematic subject. I'll come back to it here on BookTube, but it's mainly problematic because his books are really good. He had a reputation, or his earlier books, the ones before he lost his mind, the ones before he fell under the sway of Nazism, which is what I firmly believe happened to him. Which goes to show you that Tolkien had it exactly right. Evil only sleeps. It doesn't die. But he had a mastery of primary sources in German, and a way of ingratiating himself with the survivors of the Reich so that they would give him precious primary documents that no other historian had access to. So his earlier works are well worth reading, even though you have to do it kind of at arm's length because you know what happened to their author. And it's grotesque, it's distasteful. Speaking of grotesque and distasteful, our next book is T. Harry Williams' gigantic biography of the Kingfish, Huey Long, legendarily charismatic and corrupt Louisiana politician. This is a great book. It's just endlessly readable. A perfect balance of scholarship and anecdote. But the mass market paperback, which is all that I've ever had until this point, it's just this big, but it cannot survive. You can't read it. The binding cracks. It's just too big a book to be bound in mass market unless it were by Penguin, and they didn't do it. So it was great to have the hardcover, and again, it will be a flimsy excuse to read it again. And the last hardcover that I found, last book of my Savers adventure, is one you might all have seen in the background of The Retired Book Nerd. This is The Walking Drum by Louis L'Amour. This is a historical novel set in the 12th century, into the time of the Crusades. And the only reason that it exists and that it was brought out in a hardcover and that it too was stacked in every Crocs and Botanos and Barnes and Noble in the country is because the book that he wrote right before it, an even bigger historical novel set in the American West called The Lonesome Gods, which is really, really good, sold like the Dickens. It was 5 times as long as a normal Louis L'Amour book, but it sold like the Dickens. And that gave him the leverage to go to his publisher and say, look, I want to write a big historical novel that isn't set in the American West, and this is the result, and it's fantastic. So again, I'll have the excuse I need to read it again. And there you go. That brightens up a Sunday, doesn't it? Remembering Saturday. I had a wonderful Saturday. So 2 videos from me. Sorry, that darkens your Sunday. But I'll be back tomorrow. Thank you, Book 2.